Hey there, and welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast. We're fueled by the incredible clients who inspire us every day, allowing us to elevate their health and fitness journeys. On this show, you'll gain valuable insights from top professionals, hear inspiring transformation stories, and discover the knowledge and motivation to create your own best life. Let's dive in. As someone who has continuously used therapy as a way to heal and elevate my personal performance, I know wholeheartedly that you cannot always read the label when you're in the jar. And that's why it's so helpful to have a professional in your corner to talk to. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp to provide our listeners with the opportunity to work with a licensed therapist from the comfort of your own home. Receive 10% off your first month when you sign up by going to betterhelp.com/TFL. That's betterhelp.com/T as in think, F as in fitness, L as in life. And remember, you're not alone. There are people out there who can help.
If people have never heard of Anchor, I've been using it for 5 years now. But give us a little background of how this thing started and what is this? Because people, they hear about it, but they don't actually know what it is and they can't conceptualize it.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. First off, Anchor, you mean the flagship that we build is a compact, versatile version of a cable machine that you are used to seeing in the gym. The traditional cable machine has those weight stacks, the pin selector, the pulleys, and imagine that piece of equipment that you're used to, but boil that down into something that can easily fit into your hands, can attach to any rack or pole, fixture, wall mounted, and still gives you a full cable experience. That's what we do. That's what the core product is. And to go kind of into the origin story, very early on, when I had this idea, it stemmed from an injury that I had while playing baseball in college. I dove for a ball in the outfield, had a really bad dislocation. I needed a labor repair, reconstructive surgery. And the only thing on my mind was making a comeback. And that's, for most athletes, it's like how fast I get back on the field, but, get back on the field and play well again. For me, I took the rehab pretty seriously and kind of listened to everything the professionals would tell me what to do. And at the time with physio and athletic trainers, they had me using cable machines a lot more than, I normally did. And part of that was, the easier on the joints, you can change resistance easily. You can move into, many different planes, directions with the resistance. And it was like, wow, these are great. I was always familiar with cables, but never really using that exclusively for kind of the reasons I'll get into. But then the observation came, well, it's such a great piece of equipment. Why does the varsity weight room only have one cable machine? And that's kind of the common theme that I see, is that it's such a great piece of equipment, but they're not really found in quantities. That was the idea. Is there any way to take a cable experience and make it more accessible? Because what I was seeing at the time was, the reason there wasn't a lot of cable machines is because they're big, bulky, heavy, fixed pieces of equipment that cost thousands of dollars for a good commercial cable machine. That was the idea. Could we take that and make it more accessible? That was kind of the origin of the idea. And Eric, do you want me to kind of get into, the first kind of formulation and first prototypes we made? After I was done playing in undergrad, I did have one redshirt year and was going to play in grad school. I went over to Europe briefly, came back and went to a small school, which is what brought me to Boston, called Babson College. And one of the things we had to do in the program was pitch a business idea. The college is all about entrepreneurship and startups. That's what kind of drew me there. And I'm like, you know what? I've got one idea. That's it. And that's the only thing I can think of. And I'm going to roll with that because it would be pretty cool. I would definitely use it. And there's a lot more people like me that would be in that boat too. I pitched the idea in class and I met a classmate, Nathaniel, who's my co-founder and business partner today. And he had the exact same shoulder injury and surgery, but from a mountain biking accident. He's a little more on the extreme sports side. And his background was mechanical engineering, but he just wasn't like an engineer that's, hey, I can design stuff. He could design stuff, but he also was like really good with his hands, like a full-on mechanic. He knew how to build stuff. And he was like, hey, I have a design idea that might work. We really hit it off. He's from the Boston area. And he had a buddy in the town over in Watertown that had an auto shop and had a 3D printer in the back. We let us use the 3D printer to make the first model. And the first one, we were excited, but literally had maybe 2 feet of cable out of it, and you couldn't change the resistance.
Mhm.
And we thought, we're like, wow, we're onto something here. And, that was kind of the start of that first mechanism that we patented. And then it was like, how do we make it adjustable? Because we know people need adjustable resistance. How do we keep it super smooth? You don't want bumps in it. How do we mount it? Can we make an interchangeable system? Because we didn't really know what was going to be the most popular. All those things we started figuring out. And at the end of that program, we said, hey, well, we want to keep doing this. We believed in it, and we set up shop in Nathaniel's parents' garage in Swampscott, and we started building them. We chipped in a few $1,000s each to buy a really high quality 3D printer where we could print fully usable units and give
Wow.
them to customers, and they could use it and give us feedback. And so that allowed us to learn very quick. The 3D printing for rapid prototyping is amazing. However, you have an Anchor unit. Do you know how long it takes to print one on a 3D printer, on a good quality 3D printer?
Couple hours, I guess.
Takes like 2.5 to 3 days.
Dang.
Not exactly scalable. From there, I kind of leaned on some of my, family background and connections back in the city I live was next to Detroit, Michigan, but I was on the Canadian side where I grew up. But everyone in that area is all centered around auto industry, manufacturing, tool and die. That's where we had a lot of experienced folks tell us, hey, well, here's, some specific things that you need to make sure in your design for the custom tooling. And here's the machine shop to use. And here's some materials to check out. We kind of were getting that real crash course to be able to make the parts at scale. And we would have all the parts shipped into the garage, and we would just start building them. We found, some neighborhood
Wow.
guys down to come into the garage and build, and had one of their classmates, Mike, who's our director of marketing today. He was our first real official team member in addition to Nathaniel and I. He came into the garage and was like, hey, we need a website, set that up. We have no budget, whatever, do as much as you can with no money. And that was kind of the prerogative we gave him. And very early on, to kind of show you where we kind of, took off, was one of our early customers had a consulting call with the New Jersey Devils at the time. And at the end of the call, he just demoed the product on a Zoom or something, a video call. And the way they're like, "Oh, like, that's really cool. We want to get one of those." They reached out to us, got the product. Once they got it, a bunch of their players wanted it for their home gyms. And as you know, at the high levels, everyone kind of knows what everyone's doing and keeps tabs on one another, and they're pretty close. Once he had his New York Rangers call, the Penguins coach call, and you just kind of go all the way through
Yeah.
the list of coaches that are reaching out to get the product, because yes, these pro teams have amazing home facilities, but they're on the road 5 months of the year and they don't have access to that equipment. Our tool was a way to kind of bridge that gap and create some continuity in equipment to have cables on the road. There, became a lot of use cases, whether it's, rehab, space saving, versatility, portability, where we kind of fit into different places. But since that early origin, that kind of got us into the pros, where eventually we got mandated in the NHL and they wrote us into their CBA, which is really cool, to say that
Oh,
all 32 arenas by league rule have to have our products in there as a part of
that's
a training
awesome.
equipment standardization protocol. It was kind of this wild, whirlwind. And obviously once from there, it kind of the PGA found out about it. And now we're on all the performance trailers that are basically these 18 wheelers that go to every tournament. All these exciting things are going on. And certainly the product, works great in rehab clinics and functional training studios and athlete facilities, as well as, we've had military deployment kits and obviously a ton of home gyms. And it's been cool to kind of see the variety of places that the product has, gone in to kind of solve one piece of the puzzle for someone's programming. And we still, since the garage days, we still build and assemble all the units here in Massachusetts. We've long since moved out of the garage and moved into a couple of different facilities since, but there to kind of leave it there. But that's, that quick kind of 5-minute story of,
Yeah.
our origin, and quickly bringing it up to us still going today.
Because when I first heard about it, I remember a coworker years ago was like, "Oh, this Anchor," and I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." She's like, "Oh, it's a portable, it's a portable cable machine." I'm like, "Okay," but for people maybe listening, it's a very small unit. What's it weigh? Like maybe 14 pounds total.
The fully loaded unit weighs just about 9 pounds.
It's not big, but you can get up to 65 pounds of resistance on it. It's like it's this small thing that can get resistance that for most people, that's fine. You don't need like a cable stack, like you said, that's 500 pounds. Yeah, it goes up heavier, but we'll get into that because I saw your new monster machine that you built. That thing's sick. but it's more versatile. That's the whole thing. It's like you can attach this to a squat rack and not have to go across a gym for a cable machine or a rotational exercise or whatever it is. And it's not your traditional cable stack where people are going to think, okay, I'm going to do triceps. I'm going to do like, you can do it on that, but you see these athletes, they're using it more for rotational aspect of sports or punching or jumping or cable chops, because it's that versatile and it goes with their programming easier. And then the resistance, it's not your traditional like cam and pulley system. How did you guys figure out kind of that smooth resistance and the ratio of gearing?
Yeah, to get into the resistance, it really centered around, you might give credit to Nathaniel for kind of figuring out the mechanism where it's, as simply as I can put it, it's a series of interlocking torque loaded mechanisms. When you stack on more of those resistance plates, the center shaft of all those pieces are going to interlock. And if they interlock, it will be attached to all these different coils. And the more coils you have on there, I mean, the hence tougher it is to unwind that cable. And then like inside the center of the unit where that cable is spooled up, it does have a special kind of cone shape that it does slide down smoothly when you coil and recoil. Some of the things that we get asked about is, hey, how come it's not like a metal steel cable like everyone is used to on those traditional pulleys? And part of it is if you took a little metal wire and you wrap it around your finger, and then you try to unwind it, that thing is going to be kinked. It's all going to be crimped and kinked. And that's part of the reason why we use like or offshoot of like a Dyneema line, which is very common in like marine applications. It's very strong, 1,000-pound plus tension, but it is, a lot smoother and allows it to be coiled and uncoiled very smoothly. That's kind of, the simple part of the current mechanism is just a series of torque loaded springs that you lock and interlock to incrementally add or decrease that tension.
It is funny when you see people use it for the first time because they're thinking it's a cable stack where the pulley system, the certain tension is going to come off, and they go out with it and they're like, oh, this is a lot different. This is going to kind of try to pull them back rather than just like have a constant tension, which is one thing where it builds. So like the further you get away from it, the tension curve changes immensely.
Yeah, there's a progressiveness to it where it's pretty flat in that center range, but if you do get to the end of the cable, which is closer to that 7+ foot range, you'll definitely feel that really, does start to spike upward. And that's part of that, coil design. But to your point about, rotational training for any performance coaches and athletes, that was probably the biggest insight that very early on drew that population to it, is that because our mechanism, that spring tension, is not dependent on gravity like a traditional weight stack. You can move ours at very high speeds and it's not going to slack out. You're not going to have those plates jump on you when that cable slacks, when you move it too quickly. Ours, there's always tension regardless of how fast or slow you move, which makes it great for training rotationally. And as you know, many sports and athletes, it's a huge demand of the sport to be quick and powerful in a rotational plane.
And you remember the days where, I don't know if the rehab you were at, but the Kaiser air pressure machines, which are really good, they're expensive. And you have to have an air pressure system to go with it. So it's like for some teams in most places, that's unrealistic. And you can't really mimic that without that air pressure. It's like you took this thing and said, hey, now I can have anyone have this thing. It could be in their basement, garage, and you guys are in top facilities all over the country from D1 to pro sports. It's like it can be used anywhere.
Yeah, and that's a huge, element of feedback that we heard away too, is that people did compare us to the Kaiser equipment, and for a second we had to think, well, how do we think about that? Someone comparing us out to another brand, and it was a great comparison because they've, been around for a long time, strong, high performance brand, and their products are very high end. They're expensive premium pieces. For us, if you're going to compare something that is like an eighth of the cost and like a less than probably 100th of the size, and it doesn't require a plug-in and an outlet and things like that and wiring it up to an air compressor, it's a pretty darn good comparison if you're going to compare something of those two different statures. For us, it made a lot of sense, but I would say definitely the feeling of our cable is more similar to a pneumatic machine rather than a weight stack. We definitely get that feedback, and we agree with that, and that's kind of what we tell people if they do have experience with those pneumatic powered cable machines.
And that's why I felt like when people ask me, I don't like to call it a cable trainer because
Mhm.
it's not really. It's just this kind of standalone attachment that can go on a rack, a pole, like you said, anywhere that allows you to do a bunch of different exercises that someone would call a cable, but it's really not. It's a different sort
Mhm.
of tension.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and that's what we try to tell people too is that hey, the feeling is going to be a little different, and it's
Mhm.
always a challenge for our team to describe that in words, and
Yeah.
then you can't do that really in a video either, but you're still kind of describing to someone. It's always like, hey, you got to just get your hands on it, and the second you get your hands on it, I mean you'll understand exactly what we're saying.
Yeah, and it's very simple. Like you talked about the change plates. They come in 5 and 10s. People just take them on and off. You can change the resistance all in one. And for the Kaiser stuff, even in weight rooms when I was interning, the hardest part about was having Kaisers was programming because they were on a lot of times were on one side of the wall
Mhm.
where the squat racks are on the other. And now from a coaching standpoint, if you have these anchors on the squat rack, you literally can do an exercise in the squat rack, take 2 steps, and you're there with a cable or pneumatic system that
Mhm.
you can do all your exercises, which saves crazy amount of time, space, and like you don't have to walk back and forth. That's one big thing that when people are asking me like, "Oh, how come you would prefer this
Mhm.
over a cable stack?" Well, first of all, I'm very biased. Like anything that can go on a squat rack, I'm gonna use because squat rack and platform, it's simple. You're not really deviating from that area anytime you're in a strength training session. The more I can have compact in an area, the better I can be as a coach.
Yeah, for sure. You made a great point there too. The space saving and the versatility, what that allows for is that the options and the freedom and flexibility to set up the facility the way you want and to the point you got at, like flow. That's what I always, tell coaches too, is like we want to kind of learn like what's the flow of the room and how maybe can we set up the units to be able to like maximize that. If you want athletes going back and forth, you want athletes to be able to stay in kind of their spot, stay in their pod, and keep the amount of uptime going and minimize downtime. It's an easy way to do that. And pitching the value from our end is well, you're able to do that for a fraction of the cost as well, which is a huge part of the value that we deliver.
Oh yeah. And even for home gym people ask me all the time, like, "Oh, I want to get a cable stack." And I'm like, why? I mean, I know people like cable stacks. I guess they're decent, but if you want to save space and you can have one or two of these units, like it's a no-brainer because you just attach them to any kind of squat rack stand and it's good to go. Like it doesn't need
Yeah.
you don't need a lot of weight on something. Like you need some resistance to anchor it down, but like you don't need a giant piece of equipment that's going to be set forth in the ground that's going to move.
Yeah, it's just trying to make things easier. And we try to make it clear too to customers that hey, if you're looking for a very heavy max load lat pull down or two arm low row, you're probably going to need a big heavy piece of equipment. I can tell you we're certainly, moving more in that direction as to be able to kind of check that box. But, we try to be upfront like, hey, if those are the two moves that's like all you care about, then there's probably other pieces of equipment that you can look at and we can kind of steer you toward if that's like the only thing you care about. But if you want an all-encompassing cable experience down from light rehab movements, scap work, all the way to functional rotation face pulls, or you're just trying to do some arms, some buys and try like
No.
that range, yes, like if you want it at all, we can certainly help you there, but we try to make it clear to people. It's like, hey, if you're literally just looking at this to try to do a 325-pound low row or lat pull, like you need something else, or maybe some weighted pull-ups are probably the way to go.
Yeah, like that, like, okay, get a bar and load it in heavy dumbbells. But I was actually when I was at the conference, we were talking to your team about that because I've kind of I ran into that issue. But what I've been doing is taking band or peg attachments, wrapping the band around it, and adding the band with the
Gotcha.
anchor unit. Holy smokes! It's like I can add more to it if you're looking. Yeah, if someone's looking for that 300-pound row, it's not it. But if you're looking to get more out of it, you can add bands and attach different things to it. And I've gotten results from it that I'm like, I mean, I don't know how much weight's total on it, plus 65 plus a band, but really I don't care because I'm going to failure. I'm getting a good burn and I'm seeing results. It's like I get the best of both worlds here.
Good. Well, that works. And that's the part of the versatility. You can add
Yeah.
any attachments to it. You know, a lot of people double up units, click them together, even to double up that resistance. It just goes back to the versatility. You know, it gives you
Yep.
that options, and it's a tool where, I mean, it's not single function. Like you can do much with it. And sometimes we have to, you know, help kind of guide people through that programming, because if you tell someone something does 1,000 things, and it's like, to them, it's like you end up
Right.
with nothing because they don't have to pick. We try to make sure we can educate in that realm as well, that, hey, and lay out, well, what's important to you? What are your goals here? And we do offer, even for any of our customers that, you know, buy from us, we do offer a, you know, free, you know, fitness consultation with, you know, one of our in-house, you know, crew members. That's, you mean, a trainer that, hey, if you need a little help to just get started, you know, we're happy to assist with that.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. Seeing like the units double stacked, you can kind of play around with it. It's basically kind of transform into what you want it to be. And then I have like the original one, and then you have different versions. You have what the original, the pro, and I would say the pro version. You guys made that much smoother, and it's
Hmm.
just like when you get on that thing. I mean, the original is smooth, but the pro is just a whole different world. You can see why pro athletes want this because it's just smooth compared to any other cable system I've ever used, and it's just simple to move through exercises like that.
Yeah, because when we started, we had, I mean, it came from like injury. It was like,
Mhm.
hey, there was a rehab origin to it. And then it was like, hey, athlete, you know, me as a person, it was like, hey, this could be personal athlete use, maybe travel, maybe it opens up some capacity in a gym or weight room setting. But then the second we launched it, you know, seeing how it was purely adopted in that weight room, like, hey, let's add this to the rack. Let's increase capacity in these, you know, college, high school weight rooms. It was like, hey, okay, we need to kind of up and adapt to our customers and to the way the product's getting used. We kind of quickly came out with that pro edition where, you know, we didn't change a lot of the other stuff, but we really changed the center core of the unit where it, like you said, is way smoother
Yeah.
on those rollers. And it was tough, you know, once we had that introduced. I mean, it's hard to kind of go back and forth
Yeah.
between the units. I know you've experienced that too. But yeah, we had to, you know, make an adaptation and make it better.
Well, yeah, obviously starting the rehab, you're like, okay, this is, your PT clinics. But once you kind of probably know now, once you put this thing in strength coaches' hands, like they're gonna demand a crazy amount of stuff from it. Also, they're like, well, we can do this with it, this with it. You're like, oh
Yeah.
great, I gotta now keep up with it, which kind of leads us to the next one, that your new product. It's just unleashed at Summer Strong, but that thing, I mean, holy smokes. Now we're going up to what? I'll let you describe it, but it's like 80 pounds of resistance. The
Yep.
thing is a giant cylinder bracket that just is a monster. And you can just do some crazy stuff with it.
Yeah, that one is exciting. We brought it, like you said, Summer Strong, a couple in-person events, and it's still under radar, under wraps. Yeah, you won't find that
Mhm.
on the site or anything, but definitely coming soon. And that was something that, you know, realistically, probably a couple years ago, we came to a decision point to say, hey, you know, do we want that third version to be incrementally kind of better? You know, the current kind of patent and technology had gotten us, you know, pretty far. To see where we are today is all because of that. We appreciated, you know, the technology that, you know, was already existing, but it was, well, what can get us to the next tier? We knew we can, you know, make some larger resistance plates, but eventually we knew you know, we thought we were going to get tapped out sooner than possible. So the option was, well, do we come out with a third version pretty soon and make some of the plates bigger, very small improvements, or do we maybe take a little bit longer and go ground up? Like we went blank slate. You know, something that I learned that kind of stuck with me from my time at Babson was one of the, you know, professors or mentors saying, hey, you know, when you're building something, you know, make sure to fall in love with the problem, not your solution to it. And that kind of really centered around, you know, the approach we took to say, well, you know, what are some of the problems we have? And to get into that, like with our current product, it's awesome, but it only exists in supervised training environments. Like you're not going to see it in a rec center, in a hospitality,
Correct.
in an open gym, a YMCA, simply because there are those loose components, which a lot of people love and you click them together. But in certain environments, it just wasn't adapted for that. We thought, well, one, how can we make it simple that anyone who walks up to it can just know how to use it? Like, I don't even have to give you that 20-second tutorial to use the plates. You just walk up, you know how to use it, as you saw in that new one, turn the dial. That was, you know, one design criteria. Another one was, well, we knew we wanted to up the resistance. We knew we wanted to up cable length. And then comes along with that is pushing into those environments. We know durability, we want to increase all those things, but also how can we also keep to kind of our design visions too of keeping things simple so that it's easy to use. There's no batteries, there's no charging, there's no cords, none of that stuff you have to worry about compressors. It's 100% mechanical and still, it's definitely bigger as you saw, but it's not to the point where, hey, it doesn't just fit on your rack still and you can
Right.
slide it out of the way and still have a ton of functionality and a ton of versatility. That was kind of the essence of it. Is totally new patent that we went. It actually, uses air inside of it.
Wow.
Air springs
Awesome.
actually generate the resistance. It's a pretty intricate system, and our engineers definitely worked quite a bit to make it happen, behind the scenes. So we're excited to release that later this year.
Mhm.
No one besides you and a bunch of other people that kind of saw it at a few of these kind of closed events
Yeah.
really know about it. We're super excited. Kind of a new frontier for us moving into, I guess that other side of the fitness market as well. While this is still a product that works great for a lot of our existing customers who want something a little more heavier duty, higher really usage. And that's the new one.
Yeah, because we were talking to the guys, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's got this new design coming out." And I remember talking to you a couple conferences ago, and I thought it was going to be more on the velocity side of things because I know you have that,
Yeah.
and you were talking about that, and I'm like, okay, like they're going to incorporate it because there's some I would say competition on the market to have that. And then I went over to the booth, and I was like, completely wasn't expecting that thing, but it makes sense. And I turn I turned to Hunter, and I went, some of these, especially D1 colleges, are going to be like, we want these things ASAP in our weight room.
Yeah.
I mean, they also they look just badass. They look like a depth charge off of like a battleship with a handle on it that you're just going to be able to move weight. And then they are adjustable up and down a rack. It's like, okay, this whole thing now just becomes a whole sliding cable machine on a rack. This is going to make life easier to strength coaches, and not even thinking about commercial gyms where if you have owners going now, well, if I can just put in racks and then put in beams with these anchor units on, I don't have to pay for 10 cable stacks and take up that space because it's a space saver in itself.
And that's, one of the things like at a, commercial gym, typically one of the pieces of equipment you always see that is totally taken up and a bottleneck is cables. Like there's always people on the cables. And even if you're not going to replace your current ones, it's like, this is an easy way for you to add a couple more cables without taking up or needing to change anything else with your footprint in the gym space. And now you just have more capacity, and it's still, a fraction of the cost of buying actually more large traditional cable machines. That's, really the essence of, what we were going after with the new design.
Do you have some like big global gyms already talking to you guys, be like, hey, we're interested, or is this completely silent for the market?
We have just, as of today, we have, been showing it kind of in that same fashion at just a couple, it's only really been out at probably 2 or 3 in-person events, but we do have, a few larger franchises that are interested now and express interest. And, we'll soon be getting into kind of a pilot program with them. And we're excited to see, where that will lead, because, that's certainly what we were, targeting and going after, to see if, hey, this can exist in many more locations rather than, a facility that, really has to be monitored by a coach. We kind of want to transverse the supervised and the unsupervised segments to really be the cable machine everywhere, to say, eventually, why do you need bigger, heavier, more expensive pieces of equipment that don't have a, cost or space advantage? They don't have a performance advantage. And that's really what we're going after long term.
That's awesome. You're probably going to see some cool designs of like beams, these things being anchored or like put on beams, like maybe in a circle. You're going to see some crazy things because it changes the whole world of what you need for space, and then you can adapt from it.
Yeah, awesome. Curious here too, because obviously you kind of described your reaction when you walked up to it. It sounded like it certainly wasn't what you were expecting.
No.
What was your take on seeing it? Because obviously it's different because we coach our team on 2 things now with the new product, because it's, it's new for everyone. Some of the things that we do for our team too is that everyone, regardless of if you are in production on the assembly line or you are in engineering, or you're in sales or marketing or support, you have to know how to build the product.
Oh,
Everyone, even if we have an intern that comes in, first week on the job, they're spending on the assembly line.
oh,
They have to
interesting.
know, and that's part of our ethos, is that you have to know the product inside and out. Regardless of if you're selling it and marketing it, you need to know how it works and all the features and the importance and what people value. If you're, sales and support, you need to be able to explain it. Or if someone has an issue, you know exactly what's going on in the unit. And that's, the same thing that goes for anything new that we build now. Everyone needs to be educated on it. And that's what's, super important as well, to know all the components and know it front to back. But what I tell our team too is that, hey, it's very different when you're describing this new unit to
Hmm.
someone who's an existing Anchor customer and using it like yourself,
Yeah.
compared to someone who's never heard of us. Because someone who is familiar with our stuff, like, you're contrasting it to our current products, whereas someone new will just contrast it according to all the cable machines out there that they've seen. And we realize that that's an important denotation too, because you'll see, like, all the differences according to, your previous experience with our products.
Yeah, the first thing when I walked, obviously it's going to handle more weight. I saw it. I'm like, okay, this thing is legit. What is it? Where are the plates? Because I'm used to, like, okay, the plates taken on and off. Then I saw the wheel with the numbers, and it automatically, like, registered. Okay, you're just going to have to turn that dial,
Yeah.
and you get it. What's similar to I don't know if Bowflex still makes. Remember those adjustable weights back? They sold
Yeah,
them
I know
like
what you're talking
kicks,
about. Yeah.
but looks like that, and then you just turn it, but it's all in one case. You just know you're gonna get more resistance. And then, of course, my brain goes, okay, this thing is securely mounted to the rack and go up and down. I could put this on my rack. It's more resistance. This is now a problem for me because more resistance, cooler things. I like it. I got to think about it. About, like, okay, eventually, like, would this be something for me as a value? And any coach is going to be that. What is this value for it? Because yes, you have your base units and your pro one, but this now can up the game if people are a little bit stronger, or you want to have a more literally anchored system on a rack, and then have other ones that can float in different areas. It just opens the possibility of just bigger and better, and catering more towards the stronger athletes. But now talking with you about the commercial gyms, like, I didn't even think about that side, because a lot of us just think sports performance world, but where that is
For
now,
sure.
like in a facility where I'm at, where like we have younger kids, the plates might not be ideal, but something where
Yeah.
we don't have to worry about, like you said, any other piece of equipment of changing. It's just there. Okay, we have like big support beams. Like I could put one on there. I can put one on there. Now I have support beams from the building that I could probably, I don't know if you could probably drill and anchor one into the wall, but now as me, I'm like, I have more area for cable stacks or equipment than just a giant piece. And then I'll go through my head eventually, be like, can I phase out an old cable stack,
Mhm.
see if we can start putting some screws in a wall here and get those. I now have 4 stations that just opened up. But I'm in my head, I'm like,
Exactly.
oh damn, like, okay, well, when is this thing? And I gotta think about, okay, what's my next step for my home gym?
Oh, well, that's the response we're going for and we're hoping for. But yeah, there's a lot of new interesting applications too. Like, something that we've been seeing growing with, the current product that, we want to continue push into is like group training too, even like classes, because you never have tables programmed into a group training class, because who's putting 12 or 20 cable machines in a room, right? It just
Mhm.
makes no sense from a space standpoint, no sense from a cost standpoint. But now you could introduce it because the space isn't an issue and it's a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
And it gives you hundreds of different movements off the bat from a programming perspective to help really any demographic of client as well. There's, yeah, a lot of things in that versatility for us that, we're excited to continue to kind of push into.
I'm sure you're gonna get private studios or private gyms that do run group classes being like, okay, we don't have to buy a cable stack for, a decent one's gonna probably run you 3 grand plus, where you'll get more value and space out of more units for you. Because I always tell people, like, they'll ask me about the Anchor. I'll tell them, like, hey, it's a bit pricey, but it's not overpriced, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Like, you're gonna buy quality with any gym equipment. Like you don't want to find a cheap version on Amazon. You want to buy quality. It's gonna last. but also you don't want to go crazy in the commercial gym world because that stuff is really expensive.
Yeah, I would say any of the commercial cable machines
Yeah.
are you're looking north of, you're going
Yeah.
5 to
Yeah.
10 grand in that range for anything commercial.
And then it just
Yeah.
takes up. I mean, I've looked at some for my clients, like I want one. I'm like, first of all, they're tall. If you don't have, 7-foot ceilings, good luck in a basement or something. And they are heavy as all hell. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you're
Putting
going
it-
to get
moving
this
that,
delivered, move
assembling
it
that,
down.
send it up. Yeah.
I don't want to bring it down basement stairs. I always tell people the less space you take up for a gym, the easier it's going to be. But it's always guiding people like, hey, you have a squat rack. That's your base area. Do everything out of that, and you don't need to buy a lot of other stuff. Hence where
Yeah.
you guys, like, you just attach it to a rack, side a rack, and it's here we go. You have another side of a squat rack that can be used.
Yeah, exactly. It's meant to be, a simple way to add cables into any space or training environment.
All right, a quick step aside to hear from one of our sponsors. If you're looking to improve your nutrition game and get to those goals, Advanced Molecular Labs is dedicated to top quality supplements, whether it's for performance, recovery, sleep, or weight loss. They create supplements based on the latest scientific research. Many people have a supplement shelf in their kitchen, and just like us, we want it to be the best quality products that can support overall health each day. Check out advancedmolecularlabs.com and start getting your nutrition right. Use the code TFL35 for 35% off your order. And you do see that, especially at like the college football D1 level. If people aren't familiar with what those weight rooms look like, you kind of go in. You guys are in every rack in Alabama, and I'm sure a bunch of other gyms too. It's like every rack you'll see. What's it, two or four units?
They have 2
on it?
on every rack in Alabama. Yeah, at the football weight room, which is an amazing weight room. It's massive, right? But the reason they added it is because of what you were getting at earlier about the efficiency and flow. Like in between supersets of doing barbell work, and then okay, now I can do accessory work with the cables at the rack. And in general, if you wanted to put, because they have like 60 stations and 60 anchor units, like if you wanted to put 60 cable stacks, like that would, think of how much bigger you'd have to even have that space. And eventually it's just like, that is a big room if you're trying to fit all that in there from an efficiency standpoint too, of just getting athletes through it. That's exactly the point.
And one other thought I had with this thing, because you could put it on any beam. On certain racks, you have the bottom like support beams.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, could someone use this and then attach the cable to a squat? Someone's now cable resisted with some weight in the bar, similar kind of like West Side Barbell, how they use chains and bands. You could have something, I don't know if this is designed for it, that all of a sudden you have accessory resistance. You come down, the resistance changes versus you go up. It's like, okay, this thing can now be a mutant on a squat rack.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's been cool to see how different people have adapted it. You know what I mean? Of just like being creative, whether it's in a weight room, in their home gym, in their clinic, and seeing what they could do. But yeah, no, there's been a few people who I've seen do that. It can easily be done, and that's like the cool part about the unit is that you can set it up in so many different orientations and get resistance in many different planes or attach it to different things. Yeah, we've seen some really cool stuff.
And you just like, that's what people want. You want something that you can get and it's just going to be versatile. So you don't have to have 25 different things. Like no one wants to have, that's why I love the power block dumbbells. You have 100 pounds in a certain area. You don't need to buy 20 something dumbbells in pairs, but some people like that. But if they are still in the traditional old school cable stack, like they're missing out.
Yeah, no, you got it. Like there's other things obviously to think about, like the space and the way it's going to be set up that, is important. And that's certainly what we cater to and really help, our customers out with. That's probably the biggest thing is the space saving and versatility.
Yeah. And for you guys, the word Anchor, where did that kind of come from? Where was it a decision from, I know you got one's from, you said the North Shore, you're in Salem, Swampscott. Did it have anything to do with that? Or like what came to you or business partner that was like, hey, this is what we're going to call it?
Yeah, there's two things. It's kind of, in a fun name story. And, it really makes sense in that. First off, think of a ship's anchor. When you think of a ship's anchor, what does that anchor do? When the ship wants to stop and stay in place, you drop the anchor and it keeps that ship in place. And then if that ship wants to move again, hoist the anchor up and you move along. And you think about our product, you mount it to a certain spot, to a rack. It's stuck there. It's sturdy. It's strong. But then if you want to move it, you can undo the mount, or you can unclip it and move it elsewhere and set it up somewhere else. So it's kind of that symbolism of an anchor we really liked, just that, strong piece that has that function. And then the other side of it is that we were starting the company, in Swampscott, Mass, which is kind of in the North Shore, near the water, north of Boston. And there was that nautical theme to it. We did
Love
have
it.
an old ship's anchor near the garage that was just, in kind of a stone pile. That was, another symbol. And then we kind of changed the core to give it a little bit more of a health and strength denotation.
Love it.
That's how, that anchor name came to be, and everyone really liked it. And the teammate at the time, everyone liked it. And yeah, we still obviously do all of the assembly and build in house here north of Boston. And it's, been home for us, and that name's been really suiting.
Yeah, because people see it like the stickers on my water bottle, and they're like, "What is this?" Because it's the anchor with an anchor on it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's a unit, it's an exercise piece of equipment." And they're like, "Oh, it's not what I thought it was gonna be."
Yeah. Sometimes, we do get some people who think we're, like a marine company.
Yep.
We're next door in our facility location. The business actually beside us is a sail making company. A lot of people see our name and their name on the big kind of industrial sign, and you think it's part of like a marine industrial park.
Well, that's why people ask questions about the stickers. It's like, here it is. We're gonna tell you about it now that you're interested. I did tell your team, and I was like, you guys should make a tricep attachment in the shape of an anchor. I was
Okay.
like, that should be a cool. I for some reason it came to me like that'd be a cool thing if you in your showroom, you all of a sudden you have like a legit like metal anchor there to do like triceps and biceps. I'd be like, of course I'd use that thing.
Oh, that's a good idea. You got me thinking there. No, totally.
Just an idea, like strength coach weirdness. Be like, hey, this is just our thing.
I like that. No,
But
that's unique.
People would buy it. They'd be like, oh, what is this attachment? What can you do with it? Can you play with it? Like, oh, this isn't just a straight bar. This is something different. So that's
I
just
like it.
one of my thoughts I ran by your team. I was like, I got to tell them that.
I like that. No, I like it. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
take it and run with it. Take it and run with it. But you guys are in Salem and you guys have a showroom. Can people go and test out the units and check out the showroom when they want?
Yeah, for sure. We love having visitors by. We've got, yeah, like I said, we long moved out of the garage. We've been in a couple different, facilities, but yeah, we've been in Salem for a few years now. We're kind of on the edge of Salem and kind of Swampscott, and we have our warehouse in the back, which has our assembly line, machine shop. We've got our 3D print lab here and testing area. And then we have our front offices, conference rooms, and yeah, a nice showroom gym that we built to be able to do filming, host customers in it. Our team uses it to work out as a full gym. But yeah, people are welcome to come. Our address is, on Google Maps there under Anchor. And yeah, we always enjoy having people be able to, feel the units. That's always the best thing. And then, if they come up here, we give them a tour, show them how we build it too. And it's always a good time.
Yeah, Hunter and I we got to get up there and get a workout in. Plus, I want to play with that new unit a little bit more. I didn't get as much time that I wanted to at Summer Strong, but we're gonna make it a point this summer to get up there at some day and get a lift in and hang out with you guys.
I love it. Sweet. No, we'll do it. Let's get on
for
the
sure.
cal.
And then where can people find you? Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, website.
Yeah, all our handles are the same and simple. So it's Anchor, ANCORE training at Anchor Training, ANCORE training. And then our website's the same thing, anchortraining.com. Best place to find us is, definitely any of the social media. Instagram is probably the most popular. And then, head to our website and you'll see all the info. And if you do want to get in touch with us, the email is hello@anchortraining.com. And, one of our team members will, be able to happily, directly chat with you to help.
Yeah, for sure. And if you are someone who does own a gym, you got to check them out and don't have a cable system, or you got an old school cable system. You got to think about changing the game of how your training is. If you do have a garage gym or a basement gym like I do, like I highly recommend it to people all day. Get this unit. It makes your life easy. You can add accessory work, all kinds of shoulder work. If you're injured, it goes from super light to you can go super heavy with it. For me, it's a no brainer. And I always, think of like, I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, probably looking today, like maybe get another one. I can do cable flies because who doesn't love cable flies? There's always thoughts in people's heads, but people definitely need to check it out.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Eric, thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure speaking with you, and I look forward to your visit this summer.
Matt Gluckman and Eric Menchie here from Think Fitness Life. Our entire careers have been dedicated to fitness, particularly how the mind helps the body. We've been around gyms and nutrition strategies for 25 plus years collectively, and nothing harms or helps better than your own mind, untrained or trained. Pushing beyond your limits, overcoming whatever's thrown your way, and making the decision to show up day in and day out as a lifestyle takes more soul than sand. And what I mean by that is when you can get your mindset and heart leading you consistently in the direction of your goals and dreams, well, it's just a matter of time before you have the performance, physique, or quality of life you're yearning for. See, your thoughts will stem from your beliefs, which will then lead you to action, which develop into your behavior and ultimately lead you to results. It's really that simple. Our process takes time and it takes open communication. It's amazing what pops up along the fitness journey to betterment, and we can be there every step of the way. To learn more or apply for coaching, visit www.thinkfitnesslife.com. Start recreating your life today.